Hey guys, Agent of Doubt here. Quick ramble. Um, so, got a new office. Quick pan around my new office, and yeah, that's what it looks like. Pretty spacious. I'm liking it pretty much. Yeah, and I wanted to share the one odd thing about this new office before I decorate it myself. So over here, we have this print, right? This is Van Gogh's irises, right? And you can see this one white iris right there. That's very important because he actually did a series of irises. But this one with the white iris right here was actually the first painting that Van Gogh did when he went to the asylum at St. Remy. So, yeah, I think that's kind of appropriate for a place where you do therapy, is put up a painting that was the first one Van Gogh did when he went to the asylum. Definitely appropriate. I think I'll keep it. The other walls, I don't know what I'm going to put up. I have not determined that yet, but I have a lot of stuff at home to bring in, and yeah, that's cool. I've had a couple of tweets sent at me from Yellow Labrador, and Yellow Labrador wanted to know what my thoughts were on universal health care, and he's been sending me a few examples here and there about how bad the healthcare is in his country of Ireland, and some of them are bad. I'll get to that. My thoughts on healthcare and the American system versus pretty much the rest of the world, who all have universal single payer healthcare systems, is I feel like it's inevitable that we're going to get there. And the reasons why are not always based in healthcare. Some of it is economics, where having your healthcare tied to your employment is problematic, because then when people aren't employed and they need their health care the most, they don't have that good health care that they had access to when they were employed. So then, when you have a government catch all like Medicaid for poor people, or Medicare for old people, you have basically the people who need the health care the most are the people who have the poorest funded system, the government funded system. Now, if you were to take all the money that all the people who were paying for health insurance, for profit health insurance, were paying, and turn that into a tax and then pump that into the regular single payer healthcare system, then that system would have more money to deal with the actual sick people that are not, by default, the people that don't have healthcare insurance because they're usually not able to work because of their sickness or age and whatnot. And I feel like the stagnant wages in America for skilled labor and trades, not so much the minimum wage here, this is not an argument about that, but just like the way that when I entered the workforce at minimum wage, the skilled labor jobs that I aspired to get were paying like 10 times what minimum wage was. And now, I see jobs that don't even make twice what minimum wage is, that require a master's degree in order to get them. And I will make a complete other video about that. This is even in mental health care, where there are jobs on Indeed, and I want to shame those companies for doing this, but they require someone go into debt for their education to go get a master's degree to be able to work a job that doesn't pay them enough to pay for their student loan debt and also have a living wage and make, more than minimum wage if you subtract what their monthly student loan debt payment is. So, yeah, as minimum wage rises, it's even more pronounced because there are people whose pay is going to be eclipsed by minimum wage, and they at least had to have a bachelor's degree in order to get their job. And then the only benefit then of going to get your higher education is having more variety of jobs that you could do for the same stagnant wages. But when that happens, when wages are so suppressed, healthcare being taken out of your wages, it is a very big chunk of your pay. It's a big percentage of it, and we have to look at how we can get the most bang for our buck. And having a predatory sort of for-profit middleman is just not sustainable when wages don't go up. And so this is a completely separate problem, stagnant wages, but it's affecting my beliefs on healthcare and whether we need universal healthcare. And I just think, given the trajectory of wages in America, universal healthcare is inevitable. And those who get in the way of it are just preventing the inevitable for the time being. We're going to inch closer and closer to it. That being said, Yellow Labrador did just send me an example of how all of the elective surgeries in a hospital in Ireland were postponed for a week or two because of a bad influenza outbreak, and the hospital had to prioritize what they were giving care to. So they, if you look further into the actual article, they had to reschedule everyone who had elective surgeries. And that has actually happened, in my experience, even in the for-profit system here in America. It's horrible when it happens, but I've seen it here in Denver, where a hospital that I worked at had to close down certain floors of the hospital and convert them into overflow for a very bad flu epidemic. And then they had to protect the aftercare for surgery ward and the neonatal ward from any patients who were on those certain floors. Extra security had to be implemented in order to change the hospital around to be able to fit the need of the community during that flu season. So that's not something that is just in universal healthcare systems. That happens in the private healthcare systems as well. Triage happens no matter what kind of system you have. But I see that it exacerbates the problems that that are already present in a government-funded healthcare system, where people point to very long waits for healthcare procedures that they want done, that if they're not prioritized, they can get really, really long waits, because it's there is a different style of triage. So those are my opinions on that for Yellow Labrador. I will be supporting candidates in the months to come as I become a delegate once again for political parties, and I will be supporting the candidates who see where the future is headed as far as healthcare is concerned, and aren't trying to support the status quo just because lobbyists are there. Because those lobbyists are paid for by the money that should have been used for medical claims. Those lobbyists are part of that middleman system, and yeah. If you have any other opinions about that, comment below. Um, one more spin around my office. Ooh, there we go. Maybe I'll give you another spin in a couple months when I have some artwork up that wasn't just left for me.